Cheers. One more. Good. Only variation. Fit your lifestyle.
Happy Valentine's.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another conversation with Justin and I for the Three Geeks Podcast. Today, we are joined by Scott Page. Scott has been on tour with bands such as Toto, Supertramp, and Pink Floyd. How you doing today, Scott?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Well,
Good, man. Good. Your resume.
Man, how's your show doing? You guys been doing a good job? You killing it? Knocking it out of the park?
Yeah, we have been, actually. It's been really nice.
Awesome. It's fun, right? It's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing all this real-time two-way stuff that we can do now.
People have time to listen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
wait,
decided.
what's up, man? What are we talking about today?
We're talking about you.
All right.
Your
My favorite
very,
subject
very
to watch.
impressive resume.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it just, when you have that kind of a resume, it just means that you're old.
So I have to ask, what came first, the sax or the guitar? For like, do you have a
Actually, the
preference?
trumpet. I was a
Trumpet,
trumpet player
okay.
all the way through high school into college. So I played trumpet in college, and I switched over probably right mid college. I kind of flipped at that point and started going and playing. I was playing both for a while, playing trumpet and saxophone, and I then just decided to keep going and just decided trumpet. And I realized saxophone, because I realized the trumpet was the coil of torture. That is one heck of a hard instrument, man. It's one of those things that you can't stop. You stop a couple days and then you pay because the muscles.
Oh yeah, no, but I played trumpet in middle school and high school, and I'm with you. My embouchure was terrible after a while. You give it a break.
It's rough.
Right your mouth.
Yeah, so I played, then I got into saxophone, and then I started playing that, and then I got into guitar. I was working with a guy by the name of Stan Worth, and we were playing a club called the China Trader.
Okay.
And he was the guy that actually wrote Super Chicken and George of the Jungle, believe it or not. Those were his, his big claims to fame. He's an incredible musician, incredible composer. And one day he just said, "Man, can you play some guitar?" And he says, "We were going to do Proud Mary. Can you learn that?" So I went over to my buddy Danny Sawyer's house. I got a guitar and I went and he showed me how to play Proud Mary. And from that point on, I just got hooked, and I love guitar. It's actually my favorite thing, even though I'm mostly known for saxophone.
Sure.
But I love to play the guitar. I definitely do.
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Now, having such a musical background, was it hard to pick up the guitar because it seemed a little bit later in life, but not super late in life. But
yeah, it was later. It was later years, obviously, probably, gosh, when did I take up? That was probably in, 76, 77, 75, 76, 77. But then it worked out really well because what was good is that since I played a rhythm instrument, a guitar, a lot of my gigs, I was a doubler. So, because a lot of times, bands in rock bands and stuff, there's not saxophone on every song, right? So it's a little hard to say, gee, we want that saxophone player, to pay for just a couple, 2 or 3 songs or so, or a few more. But when you play both, so since I played, I doubled on that, it really helped me, kept me working for years, because
awesome.
they'd hire me to do that, and then I could play both,
Right. That's great.
So when did you join Pink Floyd? Were you with them from the beginning, or did you join later?
No. I came later years. I started in 86, I guess, 86, and then 87, 89, 80 through kind of 90, 91, 92, I guess, 90, something like that. Yeah. So I was the later years, Delicate Sound of Thunder, Momentary Lapse of Reason, though that period of time, the Dave Gilmour years.
Okay.
The Dave Gilmour years.
The Not Now John years. Is that the right?
The what?
Final cut. The final cut.
No, I didn't do that one.
Oh, okay.
No. I was that from that period of time. Like I said, 87 to 92, something like that period of time.
How surreal was it to be a part of such a name brand band, right? Everyone knows Pink Floyd.
Yeah, it's true. Except I didn't know Pink Floyd when I got on Pink Floyd, to be truthful. I mean, people always ask me that, the story was I was playing with Supertramp, and Dave Gilmour came and played on the Supertramp record, guested on that album. I hung out with him that day, and then I invited him to a gig I was doing. I had a band called the Hang Dynasty with Jeff Baxter from the Doobie Brothers and
awesome.
Lee Sklar and Phil Collins' band, a variety of. So we were playing in this club, and right after we did the recording session at Rick Davies' house, it was just down the street. So I said, "Come on, Dave, why don't you come down and hang out tonight? Have some beers and kind of hang out and play the club." So we went down there, we hung out, kind of became a little bit friends, and I told him about an event I was doing a week later. So I invited him there since he was in town. And it just happened to be that Jeff Beccaro was playing on that Pink Floyd record.
Sure.
And, from Toto, the great drummer, Jeff, right? Unbelievable. Greatest drummers of all time. He was doing the session with Dave, and he said, and Jeff was coming to play on my gig that night at this thing we did at Guitar Center. It was called The First Dance, and I had a full giant band. I had all the Supertramp guys. I had the Toto guys, Luke Thurb, Jeff.
That'd be incredible.
I had the Tower of Power horns. It was this big sort of extravaganza we were doing at Guitar Center, and I was filming it with this. I was developing new ways of putting sound and picture, and it was called visual sound. And I used zooming microphones and all this stuff so that when the camera zoomed in on you, it actually brought you up.
That's awesome.
Of it. So it was a kind of making sound and picture work together. So Dave was with Jeff, and Jeff was doing the session. So I got a split. I'm going to go to Scott saying, "Oh yeah, okay, cool. I'll come along." So he came along that night and hung out. And then the next day, he called me up and said, "Hey, we need some solos on this record, right? On the record. Would you want to come do that?" So I ended up going there. Now, the funny part was I did the record, and it was cool playing on the record and did the solos and stuff. And then next day I was talking to some friends of mine. I said, "I did this Pink Floyd record." They're like, "Pink Floyd? You kidding me? You played on that record?" I said, "Yeah, it was cool." I said, "I don't really know anything about Pink Floyd." So I really didn't know very much about it, to be honest, and because I was into, Junior Walker and all the R&B and funk and that stuff, kind of where more of a saxophone world. So I didn't really know much about Pink Floyd. So then a couple days later, Dave calls me up and he says, "Hey, we're going out. Would you want to join the band? And we're going to go do this tour for 2 years, and it's, be cool." And I was like, "Well, I don't know if I want to do this," because I had just finished working on this project that I shot that weekend, and I was going to do that. And again, I didn't know much about Pink Floyd. When he said we're going to be on the road for 2 years, that means you get up and you leave your home for 2 years. And
that's crazy. Yeah.
That's a pretty big commitment, right? So I said, let me think about it. So I called up some friends of mine. And I said, I played on this record. And they're like, "Whoa, dude, you played on a Floyd record?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, it was cool." And then Dave called me up to play, to join the band. He said, "Are you kidding me? You got to do that." And I said, "Well, tell me, what is?" Everybody was telling me, "You got to do that gig. It's a big deal." So I remember going to Tower Records that night and buying some of the records and coming back and listening to them. And then I decided, everybody told me, I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." I called Dave back up and said, "Yeah, let's go." So I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, for sure.
It definitely changed my life, and I had no idea the magnitude of the power of the Pink Floyd brand and what it really meant. And I'm very, very thankful. It clearly changed my life like crazy, and I had a great time, and I learned a ton from Gilmour. Gil was he's the master of melody. He completely reshaped my playing, made me think about music differently, and I loved the gig because it was fun. I didn't have to, it was the easiest job I ever had, because it was just, he'd point to me and tell me to play solos. And so I just make my stuff up. So there was never I didn't have parts or it kind of was just this, when I played guitar, obviously I played rhythm parts and figured out some parts that I needed to play from that. But other than that, my solos, I just got to play. I definitely gave a nod to Dick Perry all the time because he was the original guy there in the early days. And so I would try to do a little bit of Dick's solo just to kind of let people feel, because people get used to those records, right? It's like listening to Comfortably Numb without the Dave Gilmour solo, and it just ain't Comfortably Numb without that melody in the middle there. So I played a little bit there, but it was great because Dave was really, really kind and just let me wear my own clothes, so to speak, and be my own thing. And I was definitely a totally different player than Dick Perry. Sure. That was a shock to some people, I think. The die hard people were like, "Oh, who is this guy with this long mullet? This is goofy. Why isn't he doing this stuff that Dick did?"
Right.
And but then other people loved it, so it was great. And I'm very thankful for that. And had more fun than any human being, and I'm alive to talk about it, which is another story.
Yeah. Was there a moment when you were like on stage being like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy," like or a venue or something like really sticks out in your mind?
Well, Floyd, we did some incredible years. We played the Palace of Versailles, which was incredible. That cool. Was like nobody had ever really played there before, and there was 90,000 people outside, and they lit the whole palace up, and it was an amazing show. That was incredible. And then we did, Giant Stadium 3 nights. We did stadiums all the way through, but probably one of the greatest gigs that was just most mind-boggling and mind-blowing was when we played Venice, where they floated the two. Oh, that's sweet. They floated these 2 barges down from Oslo, and they set the band up 150 yards off of St. Mark's Square out on the water.
That's incredible.
Right, the full thing. And you can go look that up. If you go Pink Floyd Venice, you can see it. And hundreds of thousands of people showed up and just shut down Venice. It was completely closed because it was so packed, because it was a free concert, Pink Floyd concert. Everybody came from all over Europe and all over the world to this incredible event. People were sleeping out on their gondolas and in little boats and stuff for like 4 or 5 days trying to hold their spot, because the whole place, it was like you could almost walk from the stage to the water through boats because it was so jam-packed in there. And that show was pretty unbelievable to see entire. Floyd lit the entire St. Mark's, but all as far as you could see down the coastline of all the buildings, and we played, and it was amazing. It was broadcast to 125 countries. Oh, wow. And actually what was funny was we basically video transmitted. It rained and the stage was sinking and all this stuff was going on through this whole thing. I was documenting it. I shot probably 10 hours of documentary footage, just walking around that for like 3-4 days. And it was wild. When the rain came down, we didn't know what was going to happen. The show was on, it was off, it was going. And then the day it happened, it was like the sun came out. It was just a beautiful day. Place was jammed everywhere. Every store and every place was completely closed. Like it was completely shut down because nobody was open because there were so many people. And so we played the show, and after we finished, they lit off this massive fireworks display. And I remember sitting back on one of the roofs of one of our dressing room areas that they had set up on this thing, with me and Gilmour watching these fireworks out, and I'm going, "Dave, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this." So that show was pretty darn special. It was a crazy one, right? I've been lucky enough to have played, some pretty interesting shows. Other ones with Supertramp, Supertramp, we played, big gigs all over Europe. They were huge in Europe. And we actually did a Royal Command performance for Lady Di and Chuck Charles.
That's cool.
The Royal Albert Hall. And it was interesting because Lady Di her favorite band was Supertramp. And so I got to actually meet her and go through all that. And that was really something special because that venue, Royal Albert Hall, is an incredible space. And to do it before, Lady Di and Charles was a pretty cool gig, no question. So, there's a bunch of them, man. I've been very, very thankful. I've had some great rides.
For sure. Speaking of Supertramp, how did you get involved with Supertramp?
Oh, that's interesting. So, I was always playing gigs, and I always played tons of club gigs, and whatever I did, I just would play all the time. In those days, we were playing 7 nights a week, and that's how we lived. Like, we'd get paid to play a club gig, as not like today. Now you got to pay to play, and it's goofy, and so make $100 for the night, and still even today, if I go play a club gig, you get $100. So that model hasn't worked. There was no growing in that business.
It didn't scale well.
Musicians, unfortunately, have gotten sort of beat up through the years on inflation, right? Pretty bad. It's even worse now because they make you pay, like I said. But I was playing this little club called not Josephina's. What was that place? I can't remember it offhand. It was in Burbank. Anyway, it was a small club, and I played there every Sunday and Monday night. We were kind of the off band, and we play that night. And this guy used to come every week, and I'd see him sitting in the back, sitting at the bar by himself, and he'd be drinking a beer. And I'd say, finally, I walked up to him. I said, "Hey, how you doing, Scott? Man, I've been seeing you come in, and you're here like all week. What's your name?" He said, "My name's Bob. How you doing, Bob?" I said, "What do you do?" He says, "Well, I'm a drummer." And I said, "Well, what do you do?" He said, "I play in a band called Supertramp." And he says, "We're making an album now," which was Breakfast in America. And so I believe it was Breakfast in America. Yeah. And so anyway, we were hanging out. We became friends. And then years later, I got a call. I was actually out on the road with Diana Ross. I was in Vegas at the time with Diana Ross. And I got a call from Bob and said, "Hey, we're looking for somebody for the band. Would you be interested in coming and auditioning and stuff?" I said, "Sure." So it was Wednesday. I said, "It's my day off so I could fly back to LA." So I flew back to LA and did the audition and then got the gig and did that for a while. That was a lot of fun too. Those guys are wonderful people. I mean, they were incredible. John Helliwell, the saxophone player that's part of the band there, was probably one of my biggest influences, more on living life than even more than music. The guy was, John Helliwell is first of all, he's a very kind guy, but he loves quality. And he's one of those guys that goes completely blank. When he takes a bite of food, you can see his eyes go blank. He tastes every piece of stuff. He loves life and things that he loves. And he loved collecting. I remember he used to love collecting, what do you call those the knives? What is it? The famous little knife.
The Swiss Army knife?
Swiss Army knives.
Yeah.
So he collected them all over the world, all these ones. We'd always go out and he'd find knives and he'd buy them. So he had this massive Swiss Army knife collection. And I would see him. We'd go out one day and we'd come back and I'd be in the dressing room and I'd see John way over in the corner and he'd have his knife there. He'd be he was like just feeling his knife and opening it up, just checking it out. Like he just loved it, man. He was disciplined and stuff. So he taught me a lot about, being present and basically stopping and smelling the roses.
Sure.
What that means is put your attention where you're at. So he was a very big influence, and I love him to death. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Real quick, what was your experience with Toto?
Oh, well, Toto, that's interesting. My second band that I ever played with was a band called Merciful Soul Band. And it was a kid band when I was in high school and when I was playing trumpet. And it was a band. It was like a Chicago style Blood, Sweat and Tears band that time. And it was Jeff Beccaro and David Page. And so it was the original members of Toto. So I was in a kid band with them and we played through. And that's what really got me into music, because I was a draftsman at the time. I was studying art, drawing, and I was working at a company called Audiodyne Corporation, drawing exploded views. And those are the days you had to use a pencil and a ruler and stuff when you did this. No computers. And so I got in this band and I was the second trumpet player. I was the worst guy in the band. Great band. We started playing all these gigs and, playing this, and we're winning all the battle of the bands. And I noticed in the front row, there were a lot of girls. And where I'm going to my drafting, my drawing gig, there was me and a coffee machine. And I decided, I kind of like this music business thing. So I switched my whole career and I decided to go full bore music in college playing. And I was a trumpet player. And I was, like I said, I wasn't good enough to really go get real gigs and all that kind of stuff. So I used my, my drawing chops to be able to become a music copyist so that I could make a living in the music business, and a music copyist in those days where a composer would hand you the score, you know, with all trumpet 1, 2, 3, 4, violin section, the whole thing, a big score of paper that he did his score. He'd hand it to me, and then I'd go copy out the trumpet part, trumpet 1, trumpet 2, and then I'd copy all the pieces so that the orchestra or the band or whatever it was could play it. So I did that for a while I kept practicing and studied and just practiced and then started playing bands and all that kind of stuff, switched over into saxophone, and then, kind of worked my way up. And, the first kind of I was in a band called Max, which was our own band, and we were playing around. It was a cool, very esoteric kind of cool band, and I learned a lot there. And then I got called to play in Seals and Crofts. I don't know if you remember Seals and Crofts, those guys, Summer Breeze, all those tunes. Yeah. So that was my first, what I would say, sort of big touring, going world tour and stuff with them kind of during their heyday. When they were happening, and that was kind of what happened there. And then the rest was music. And then I kept playing, getting these gigs. And then the next thing I know, I played with Supertramp and stuff. And then I got a call from Jeff. Jeff called me up and said, "Hey, we need somebody for the band. Do you want to come do this?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm dreaming to play with you guys again." Right. I was like, because they were monster musicians and they took off like crazy. Right. And always in the back of my mind is, man, I got to practice. I want to get to where those guys are because these are my friends. Right. And they became, took off. And so, always in the back of my mind. So when I got that call to play with the band, I was like, oh my God, I was so scared because I thought, man, they're such great players and musicians. I mean, they're world-class players, very technical, and they can play virtually anything. And I remember, man, it was about 5 weeks. I practiced every night, man. I was doing like 8 hours a day, learning the music, studying it, practicing it, making sure I could do it because I played guitar and saxophone. I was the doubler guy. I kind of did a variety of things and sang some. And I'll just never forget. I was so scared the night before I went there because I thought, man, if I failed and I just didn't sound good or whatever, it would be awful. Right. So I didn't, all night long I was up. I was like, oh God, I got to get up. I was so scared. And so I walk in the next day, and the first thing they do, and we didn't start a song, Jeff hands me a cowbell. Right. And he says, all right, let's count this tune off. So he made me play cowbell first because he wanted to see if my time was good. Well, luckily I'm a metronome drum machine. I had one of the first Lynn drum machines, first 5 Lynn drum machines. And, I eat, drink, sleep metronomes. So my time, that's one of the things I really, really, really care about, right? The time. And so I finished the song, and afterwards he came over and put his arm around me. He said, "Good boy." And so from that point, we were cool. But yeah, it's funny when people talk to me about Toto because I was such a fanatic about the time, and Jeff was just an incredible drummer, man. I mean, his time, his feel, everything about him was just incredible. And people would say, well, what was the best thing about playing with Toto? And I'd say, I played cowbell with 4 songs with Jeff Beccaro because boys, right? Just getting that thing to sink in. And my riser was right next to Jeff. And so I could just drill him. He was right there. And we just freaking grew. Oh, man. And I'm telling you, man, when you lock in with somebody like that, it's like, that's the beauty of playing with really good players and bands. When the magic comes, when the groove just gets to kind of sits there. Right. And, it's better than sex, actually. It's like just so cool, right? It's like a space that we got in. So that's my little Toto thing. I went with them, and that was a lot of fun. Great guys, big fun. My friends, I love them to death.
So did you keep in contact with them while they were kind of rocketing up? Did you kind of see their rise like personally?
A little bit, not as much because they were really on fire, right? They were working so much, and I was really heads down into studying and practicing and really trying to get my stuff together. Didn't really see them much through there or talk to them much. Every once in a while, I'd run into them every once in a while, like at a NAMM show or something like that. Or, it was pretty not that much because everybody was off on their own things. So yeah, and then it was just when I got that call, I was like, whoa, cool. Get to go back. I finally made it. So doing that, playing that gig was a big moment for me because it actually got me from where I was mediocre to at least to good enough to get the job. Right.
That's awesome.
Do you find it hard joining a band with a back catalog that's as huge as somebody like Pink Floyd, having to learn all this stuff?
Well, like I said, that gig was for me. I mean, I listened to it a lot. I mean, obviously when he got there, listen, but for me, it was really, my gig was solos, right? So I just got to play solos. I just needed to know where I needed to play. And then, obviously I learned the guitar parts, the things that I had to do there, but it was, Pink Floyd is very interesting. It's like the music from, let's say from a chords style of chords and stuff. It's not real complex, but it is very complex in the form of how they move those chords and when they move those chords. That's always tricky. It was funny. We did Norwood Fisher from Fishbone called me up to do they were doing a residency at a place called the Mint here in Los Angeles. And he called me up and he said, every week what we're doing, once a month, we're doing a residency. And every month we're doing one album top to bottom. So we're playing an album top to bottom. And they did a BB King record one week. And, they did a variety of records throughout. And then one of it was doing Wish You Were Here. And so he called me and he said, hey, man, would you come do Wish You Were Here with us, since it was a Floyd thing, and come play? And Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction was playing drums that night. And we went there and we did that. And Norwood afterwards said, dude, I never realized how hard that was, because it's not so much like I said, the complicated, chord changes or whatever. It's just like they extend bars, extra bars, and they move to chords that you never think you would normally hear to go to. And it's really weird. So it's complex in remembering the form and exactly how they were. I mean, amazing songs. I mean, when you think about it. So everybody says that they think it's going to be easy because it's, E minor, it's like nothing, no 13 plus 11th chords or any kind of bebop changes or anything like that, but real straight ahead. But it is complex, but it's a gig, to learn all that stuff. You throw your headphones on and you get your horn out and you start practicing, right? You start learning the stuff and going along. Yep.
That's awesome. So you've become kind of an entrepreneur, right? I mean, I kind of pivot away a little bit from music, but you're a CEO of a Think EXP or Experience, whichever you.
Yeah, my background, I grew up, my father was a musician also, and I grew up on a show, The Lawrence Welk Show, which my father was on for 14 years. He was one of the members of that band for 14 years. And so I grew up around early television and through those days. But he was a serial entrepreneur. I mean, when I was growing up, we had boat businesses, lighting businesses, candy businesses. We had a reed business. My dad was actually one of the principal guys in the invention of the wah-wah pedal. And actually did the very first recording. It was called the Wah Wah Doozy, and it was done on a bassoon. My dad started all that amplified instrument stuff. Cool. And Sound City, the studio, was originally the Fox Sound Lab, which was my dad. So I grew up around my family. My dad was a real serial entrepreneur. So all my life I'd been around business. So for me, I've always taken a business approach to a lot of things. And I got into, starting production companies and doing varieties of things when I was younger. So I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. I'm actually on my fourth company. I took one of them public called Seventh Level. We were a NASDAQ company. And there I was able to do one of my most favorite claim to fame that I'm so proud of is I did with another gentleman, Richard Merrick, we did the world's first interactive cartoon. So we produced and directed that, and it was called Toonland, and it starred Howie Mandel, and we sold 11 million units of that, and it was a big deal. So we took that company public, and then I ended up producing a bunch of Monty Python. We did Monty Python for years, all those games, which were #1 hits. And so I've been in that, got into technology because that was a tech business. And then since then I'd launched 3 or 4 other tech companies. And now I'm doing a Think Experience, which is an immersive entertainment company. And Think Experience is really, we're focusing on new ways, new business models for entertainment, right? And I also have inside of that, I built Think because it's a place that I could also play music. I decided I didn't want to just do tech business. I wanted to do something that I could play again and be in. So I have a band inside Think, which is called Think X. And Think X is Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction, Norwood Fisher from Fishbone, and Kenny Olson from Kid Rock's band, and Roberta Friedman, who was with me on Floyd, and so we have this band, and we were doing experience-based shows, and we just finished up just before COVID. We had finished doing 40 sold-out shows in a 360-degree immersive dome.
That's
where
sweet.
we would
That's
play
cool.
with this thing. It was trippy. It was like a shared VR experience. And so we were really focused on unique experience-based kind of productions. And then COVID hit, and then we got knocked out. And, that was last year was going to be our biggest year. We were playing Jazz Fest. We were going back to Europe and Budapest and all those things we were in the middle of working on. So now, since this happened, I woke up and said, well, that's not going to happen. And, it was all just a dream anyway. It never happened. So not to worry about it. What can we do? So, being close to the market in the technology space and kind of looking at the entertainment space, where are the opportunities as a business person? I saw the opportunity to look at where is the market going. So I realized that we're going to be doing live events, but those are going to be a little different now. We're not going to jam, thousands of people into small spaces for a while. I think they're going to still do live shows, but I think they're going to be more premium based. So a higher ticket price to have a kind of a premium experience, a smaller thing, but then bringing in streaming. But really, for me, the realize as a technologist, the big part of streaming is the actual real-time two-way, like we're doing right now. We've got real-time two-way. So that new kind of innovation changed everything. So building a model around these live shows, but how do we take advantage of two-way streaming, bringing fan into the shows now, so fan into the stream, and ways of kind of creating an experience where some people are away in a virtual thing and bringing them into this experience. And then I realized the third thing that's going on that's on fire is delivery services. We have everybody's having everything delivered now, DoorDash and Uber Eats and all these things, and people are getting used to that stuff happening. So I realized I could combine all of those. So we're launching livin.live, LIVN.live, because we all want to get back to living, right? And living is all about rocking, laughing, tasting, giving, gaming, and thinking, right? And those are all LIVNTHAKN, right? That's our brand. That's awesome. And so we're the idea is we also ship a box that shows up at your house before the show. So it's a premium experience. So you can have an experience in your house tied to the experience, and we can do things together because you have, wine tasting that's part of it, and, things that you can try the new wines and the food. We've got things, and then we've got all these cool things that you can do that we can do interactively, tie you into the shows and all of that. So we're getting ready to launch that, we were supposed to shoot our pilot on the 14th of January, or December, but we got knocked out because of all the COVID stuff. So we're getting ready to launch that again and go back and shoot our pilot kind of show for that coming up. So I'm actually very excited about that. As an entrepreneur, I can honestly say that I think this is the greatest time I've ever had in my lifetime for an entrepreneur. There's so many problems now that have come up that need to be solved, right? Because everything has shifted. Right. And the whole game is flipping over. And, we're seeing a massive shift in, finances, how we're now, you're looking at cryptocurrency with Bitcoin and, now NFTs with these, digital trading cards that are happening, and new business models are starting to happen where we can start blending entertainment, music, crypto, all this stuff now it's a new opportunity. And, I just think this is an incredible time for artists. I think the greatest time I've ever seen, and for independent artists, because now they have this tool. We know with this darn thing here, we have a 24-hour cocktail party on Twitter or Instagram, wherever I want to go. I can be hanging out and build audience. And, I really believe in the old Kevin Kelly model, which was 1,000 true fans. And a true fan is somebody that'll spend $100 a year. If I have 1,000 of those, there's your first $100,000 in revenue. So we start to build business around the super fan, right? And new models there. So, as an entrepreneur and artist, this is crazy cool time for us. So
is there any push to be like kind of VR related? I would imagine it'd be kind of cool to yeah.
Everything's moving into real time and game engines. Game engines are like on fire, and not only in games, but now they're used in productions. Like, if you watch The Voice, that's all used. That's real time game engine backgrounds and stuff. A lot of that stuff's not even there. It's actually virtual. right? So you're doing all these virtual backgrounds now where you feel and the camera can zoom around and the light changes according to where it is, but it's all happening in real time. When the camera moves here, just like when you're in a VR experience, those pixels aren't even showing until you move your head, right? It's like there's nothing behind you until you turn around, right? So that model now is starting to fill in because again, it's real time, it's two-way. And the thing that's driving everything is we've got the, for these things is basically bandwidth, storage, and horsepower have all hit their power band right now. We've got, some
Moore's law, right?
Incredible. We can broadcast worldwide. Storage is cheap comparatively. I mean, remember when I remember the first hard drives when we were buying them back in the day, it was like $800 for 2 gig hard drive.
Right.
Right now I'm buying, 6 terabytes for $300, so it's like the model is crazy cool right now. So there's a lot of opportunities. And I'll tell you one thing that, I think there's a lot of people that are going to need to really start thinking about learning where we're going and what's going on, because if you don't see it, you can get designed out pretty quickly.
Oh, easy.
I think what's happening is if you produce something, you're going to be in great shape. But if you're out there and a lot of your businesses, because virtually all these businesses are getting ready to go away. I mean, you're looking, AI is coming in now and they got robots running everything. And, there's a lot of things. And especially now when, they're trying to, they're raising the minimum wage. Well, that sounds
pricing
great.
people out. Yeah.
That sounds great, but that's going to take a lot of people out of work. It's going to force people to start using automation to run things even more than they are now. And so, it's going to get to be very, very hairy. But if you're on the forefront, that's why I say everybody should be focusing and learning about the blockchain and cryptocurrency, because those are going to fundamentally shift what's happening. Because if you think about Bitcoin, which, 10 years ago, it was $1. Today, a couple weeks ago, it hit 58,000.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And now it's running around a little under 50,000 a coin. Right. Well, we're at the beginning of this because there's only 21 million coins ever. It's like gold. There's only so much of it. It's very little. And that price is just going to keep going up. There's a lot of talk. People talk about $1 million coin. And you say, well, how could that be? Well, if you think about 21 million coins, and as the planet keeps adapting, and, especially young people are getting so used to, using Venmo and, they don't use banks and stuff like they did anymore, right? It's back and forth through these accounts. And so we're shifting away from where banks are important. I mean, they're in trouble because if you think about Bitcoin and stuff, I can hook my bank account up and it just sucks in fiat currency.
Right. As long as you don't forget your wallet ID.
Yeah, you got to learn. Anybody getting into this, do not just jump in. Make sure you go study, you learn how to protect your stuff, because if you lose it,
it's gone.
You lose your your private keys, you lose that stuff, you're done. It's done, it's over, it's done. But if you're smart, you can protect it. You buy a Trezor or one of those hardware wallets, and you make sure you double up on your stuff, and you just got to make sure you take care of it. But it's definitely the place. And if you look at it, what's cool about Bitcoin is it's like we're getting ready to go have inflation, because you can't be printing money and printing more money like we're printing. $2 more trillion is going on. We just went for $4 trillion. That's just paper, right? And that just keeps diluting. So our dollars are dropping lower, and lower. But Bitcoin is going up and up and up. So I view it as the savings account for the planet, because as people start adapting this more, at least when you put money in there, you got ups and downs and things. And you're seeing big institutions. Elon Musk just put 1.5 billion
Tesla,
in.
yeah.
Amazon or Apple's supposed to be putting $5 billion in, and now you got MasterCard. Everybody's starting to take it. So that's a fundamental shift that we're having right now. That is something everybody out there, you guys do not miss this. Get in there, get educated, learn how this works, because, if you had one Bitcoin right now, you put that in savings, you just ride it up and down, that sucker goes, man, you're going to see, you can get a, 10X, 20X on that thing, and, you're like happy. I mean, one of the things I wish I would have done is, if I was anybody, I would just be buying. I should have, what I would have done was, I should have just taken when it started, because all my friends, right, just buy $100 at a time, buy $100 a month, Just keep buying it. Just keep buying it. Up, buy it when it's up, buy it when it's down. Just keep buying it on a reason thing. Just dollar cost average into it. If you did that, you'd be a millionaire today. Like,
For sure.
and I have friends that are billionaires now because they have so much of it when they started out.
That's incredible.
It's crazy. So very important. And I think for artists, it's really important because we got to look for models that are going to make sense because you can't sell music anymore, right? There's nowhere to sell music. You can stream it, but there's horrible business model for artists. You got to get millions and millions and millions and millions of streams to make any money. So that's why when I started about Think, I said, well, where is the money? The money's in the, in the relationship. If you can build it like, that and the lifestyle, you can kind of monetize that. And then the other thing is experiences. So, any artist out there, business people, now's the time to really start looking at these opportunities, because I'm telling you, 5-10 years from now, if you own some of Bitcoin, you're going to be a happy camper. For sure.
Scott, where can folks find you?
Me, I'm real easy. Everything is IAM Scott Page, SCOTTPAGE. I am Scott Page. That's me on all the channels. And if you want to learn about Think and ThinkX, you can just Google Think EXP, Think EXP, and you'll see a bunch of stuff in our Dome shows and interviews and all kinds of stuff that we do. So there you go. And then we also do our Rock and Talk show on Thursdays, every other Thursday with Perkins, myself, and Norwood, and all of us, and Kenny, and a bunch of us here. And we got a great show this Thursday, which is Tommy Chong. So Tommy Chong.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And that'll be fun because I haven't seen Tommy in years. I used to play with him 35 years ago. And I haven't seen him since. So it's going to be fun to see him after all those years.
Well, Scott, thank you so much. This has been a fun journey. I enjoyed the conversation. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for having me.
For sure.
Absolutely. I'll put the link
with you guys. Good luck, man.
Thank you.
Make this happen. Get out there, learn about growth hacking, how to identify audience, get yourself educated right now, and you can build a great business, because this is the future right now. And go get them. So go get your Coinbase account. Go over to Trade Genius. Go check those guys out. They'll teach you all about how this works, and get yourself educated, because right now you got to get smart to take advantage of what's happening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody listening or watching. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
And that's our show, everybody. Thanks for listening. I am Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob. We always appreciate you guys tuning in and commenting along and everything else. Go check out this show or any of our other shows on thescenesnobs.com. Thescenesnobs.com. We love you. You guys are awesome. And if you would like, follow and subscribe to our social media. That really helps us go a long way. And please spread the word. Tell your friends. Have them come in. We love feedback and everything else. So everybody, you have a great day. Again, thanks for listening. Thescenesnobs.com. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.